why do you think that's such a recurring theme of like the company saying, we love you, your art is so great, and then when you deliver your art, we don't change it. It's not good or it won't work.
It's a business. So you know, they do their research, and in their minds, they're trying to create the most profitable product. And the only reference they have is was already out there. But there's certain people in the music business, like Barry Weiss, who are visionaries, and they're able to see the vision. And usually the visionaries are the ones that have the huge hits, because they're not saying do what everybody else does, even though that's really popular right now, by the way. Just do keep doing the same stuff over and over. You have to have a visionary to be willing to take that chance on something new. They have to be able to hear it, and they have to be like, oh wow, yeah, I could see it, and have faith in their belief. But to answer your question, it's a business, and they're just trying to make the best decision they can based on whatever information they have. Just like any business where you're trying to sell a product, you're like, okay, well, the socks sold a lot this year, so maybe we should manufacture socks.
Hmm. So was the Heavy D request from Atlantic, is that what led to the On the Road Again song?
Absolutely.
Because I remember when I heard that, I was like, this is not that it's not Audio 2, but this is not what Audio 2
That's
represents.
that's exactly what it was. That was, and I fought it, and I hate that song too, by the way. But I fought it, and at a certain point, my father was like, "Yo, just do it," and I was like, "Okay," and that's what it came out like.
Hmm. Because I thought too, going back to What More Can I Say, one of the songs that I really loved was Put It to Music, uh, because of how distinctive it was and how you had the Dane and the MC Light and the LL Cool J and the Roxanne Shante, all these different samples. It was a cappella, it was all these different things.
Unique things that had never been done before. Yeah.
But that's what, to your point and to our overall discussion, that's what made, I think, rap so great during this time was that, and I wanted to ask you, do you think it was because the labels, I firmly believe it was partially because the labels, once you started getting with these bigger ones, didn't know what worked or what didn't work because there was no track record of it. So they couldn't point to rap like this or rap like that because there were so few examples. Do you think that at that time, that's why like 87, 88 had this creative explosion? And then once you get maybe even into the 90s, it started being like, oh, well, do it like this or do it like, or like, oh, you need some R&B or oh, you need New Jack Swing or whatever it was at the time.
Well, yeah, I think that is the reason. In the beginning, it was independent. It was an independent vibe, which they didn't understand. That's why they started signing these independent labels, Cold Chillin', First Party Music, Tommy Boy, all of these labels that were doing innovative stuff that was working, that they had no idea of what it was. So yeah, I think that's why it was. And also, I mean, right now you're opening a can of worms. There's a conversation, an all-night conversation, but there's a lot of things that I think that contributed to the initial creativity of hip hop. Part of it was um, not having stuff, limitation. So, like I said, Top Billin was created on a foot pedal sampler triggered by a drum machine, and we didn't have 48 track studios and musicians. We just had to be innovative and create what we could with what we had, right? Which is why a lot of it was sample based. A lot of our original songs was recorded on the 4 track. And the funniest conversation, and this one I'll never forget, was between my father and Elmo the Magic Christian. And my father was like, "Yeah, I was thinking about buying the boys a 4 track." And he was like, "Yeah, well, you could make demos on a 4 track, but you can't make a record on the 4 track." And my father kept saying, "Well, why? Why can't you make a record on the 4 track? Suppose it's only 4 tracks." He was like, "They used Motown made records on 4 tracks, and So we were able to be innovative and creative and do what we needed to do with what we had, which in my opinion created creativity and innovation. Um, it's like I said, fortunate now I open my computer, I have whatever, 1,000 tracks if I want, right? But somehow you could be more creative with those 4 tracks than with 1,000 tracks. So I think the limitation contributed to the creativity. Now all the artists are going into, whatever, 1,000,000 track studios. They have access to every instrument and musician or whatever that they need while they're in this drugs or whatever they need while they're in the studio, they have access to. And in my opinion, that limits the innovation. It takes a certain cat to have access to everything and still be able to innovate like you don't have anything.
I would tend to agree with that, but let me also ask you, isn't that also part of the artists themselves? Because if you're it depends to me on the starting point. If you're going into something of I want to get on or I want to be as big or as popular as these other artists, then yes, you're going to be limited mentally before you even start trying to create something. Whereas if you're going into it saying no one's made a beat like X, I'm going to make a beat that nobody's heard, you could have 2 tracks. You could still do it because to your point, Motown, the Beatles, all this music that we know from the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were using minimal studio resources compared to clearly what we
Well,
have now.
it's yes, it's all a matter of what you make it and how you approach it. It's not fair to make a blanket statement. But I would say it was definitely birthed from limitation and you know, innovation. Yes, there's all kinds of things that you could do. And sometimes people and technology just in general is, a blessing and a curse as well, creatively and um spiritually, creatively. Like I'll never forget, there's another story. When we released Top Billin', we used to go to the post office every day with stacks of records, sending the records to the DJs, and they were rejecting it. They were saying it was whack and terrible. And it took us a whole year to break that record. A year or like 12 months before we started getting any traction on that record at all. Um, and I think that kind of helped the situation. Now with technology now, you release the song, they blast it to everybody the first day, and by the end of the first day, whether
Well,
it's
but also, I think it's important too. Top Billing on the initial Make It Funky was a B-side, but I also remember it was distinctive because it was even after the instrumental on the B-side. It wasn't even the first song on the B-side. Um, so that to me was another one of those examples that, if people like something, they're gonna find it. Because it
yeah, well, yeah, yes, and it's another example of just because people tell you that it's not good, that doesn't mean that it's not. But
right.
if everybody decided at once, we blasted out and everybody decided at once that it was whack, then it would probably be whack. But if these people are saying it's whack, but then they're playing it over here in Texas and it starts picking up, you could pick up momentum, I guess is what I'm trying to say, by sending it out and spending the time to push it. See, that's another thing. They don't even spend that kind of time anymore to push a song. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense these days, but how do you stand behind a song for months and months and months, continuing to try to push it? Now it's instant and it's disposable as well. So and
But
and
the,
also, I'm sorry. Let me just say this real quick. I think that part of the reason why it's it's stuck so strong and so hard is because of the initial footwork and the amount of time that it took to break. I think that's part of the reason why it stood the test of time.